Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. We will be getting started here in just a few minutes. All right, I show it is 12 noon Central Time, so that's my cue to get going. I hope you guys have been having a fantastic week so far. Can you believe it's almost spring? And those of you that have been getting a lot of spring rains early, I hope you get a little bit of dry weather soon. So today, I want to talk with you guys about SharePoint and the ways that it has changed over the years. I realized when February started, and this is kind of where my mind was going, that this kind of was turning into a love letter to SharePoint, as cheesy as that sounds for February. So I decided to roll with it here with my opening slide. But there have been some major changes in the last even 2 years, but I started with SharePoint about 2007. So that was my introduction, and it looked a little different then. So my first slide here, this is what a SharePoint 2007 homepage looked like. I'm going to put a poll out here, get you guys started early. Let me find my poll button. Okay, so have you ever used or administered a SharePoint 2007 site? I see a lot of yups so far. So you're looking at this going, oh, I remember those days. 88% say yes. 17% saying nope. I'll give you guys a few more minutes. I was actually talking with some folks a while ago, and they're like, they had SharePoint back then? It's like, oh, they had SharePoint before then. It just wasn't always called SharePoint. Portal server. We know portal server. All right. Give it just a couple more seconds. But even looking at this slide, right, this old old interface, we still see some similarities, right? We see navigation on the left-hand side of the screen. We see page content. We see a search box, which it's still there in our modern sites. It's just not where we're used to seeing it. I do kind of miss, you guys remember when you could actually click up where your username was and sign in as a different user? Those were the good old days, right? Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to close this poll. Still seeing poll. Yep, I'm closing it now. There we go. So yes, these were the good old days. I will admit, one of the things I used to do pretty quick when I would go back and find these sites that were out there and being used was edit this page. So you could kind of get rid of the Windows SharePoint Services logo, maybe put our team logo if we had one, or if we were working a specific project. do a little bit to personalize the site, though there wasn't a whole lot we could do. Then things changed a little bit, right? We went from 2007 to 2010 and then 2013. So on the left, I have the SharePoint 2010 site homepage, and I have to admit, the first farm I ever built up was a 2010 farm. So I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for that still. It's one of my favorites. I liked the contrast on the page, the dark blue bar. I worked in the government at the time, and I would customize the dark blue bar to be red when we went to like sensitive content, right? Secured, not quite classified, but almost stuff. And then we have SharePoint 2013 on the right. We still see some things that are the same. We still see we have a left navigation. We have navigation across the top. We have our page with content. All right, I've got one more poll I'm going to put out there because I'm just a little curious. Those of you that interacted with SharePoint 2010, what was one of the first things you did when that 2010 site was up and going? My first thing was to delete the picture of the happy people on the page because and so far I'm seeing 100% say the same thing. Get rid of those happy people. Those are not our people. They look way too interested. We don't need that. Delete, rename, share documents. Yes, that was a lesson learned from 2007. If we all have a library called shared documents and someone needs help with their shared documents, it gets a little confusing. Play with the built-in designer. Yeah, that was exciting stuff. Let someone else worry about it. I like that 9% of you say that. In 2010, never heard of it. So far, 47% of you say you deleted the people that were on the homepage. 13% delete, rename, share documents. And we had to get used to the ribbon, though I did come to love the ribbon. All right. Thank you so much for answering the poll. I'm going to go ahead and close this down in about 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oh, got a few last people in there. All right. But yeah, the first things we did here, it looks like, is we customized the homepage. Maybe because we were snarky and we didn't want to see the happy people. Maybe because we wanted to put our own stuff on the page. So now let's go to, believe it or not, my next to the last slide. And then we're just going to jump into SharePoint and see what's there. Here we are, guys. This is the modern SharePoint team site. And I keep asking myself in the back of my head, I haven't vocalized this yet. Are we still going to be calling this modern in 5 years? I don't know. We're going to have to call it something. The old modern SharePoint site. But here it is, right? It's much easier to edit than any of the pages in the past. I love my wiki pages, though. Don't get me wrong. And I'm very excited when almost, a couple of times a month, Microsoft releases, hey, we got new web parts coming. That's exciting stuff. We have new site templates. We can use beautiful images to make our sites, number 1, look pretty. Number 2, put visual interest on it. I think one of the most challenging things we have when we have our team sites and our intranet sites in place is keeping them fresh and interesting so people have a reason to keep going back to them. One of the first things I did way back in 2007 when I took over my company's SharePoint environment was we kind of did the whole dog food situation in IT, right? I took the IT site collection homepage and I put the cafeteria menu on it. I put the link for the little barber shop that was in the front of our building in there, right? I put things there that people would use just to trick them into going to SharePoint to use it. It's easier now. We don't so much have to trick people because we can make these pages look visually appealing. It's a lot easier than those old 2007 pages. And the web parts do some of that work for us. New news that I've got here on the page, right? I have to go create that new news page. I have to create calendar events. But we've got web parts that we're going to look at in just a minute that just go out and say, oh, here's a new document that's been added to this library. I'm going to put the thumbnail for it on the homepage. We can keep things interesting. So I'm going to jump out of that. Now let's just look at the real thing. So here is the live, my modern demo site that I've got built up. I use and abuse this thing quite a bit. But we have our app launcher. We're going to start at the top and work our way down so I can get to the other Office 365 apps that I use for work. You guys, if you go to your app launcher, if you've got SharePoint Online, you may see a different assortment of apps here. Some companies turn some off, choose which ones they're going to have on, so it may not look exactly like mine, and that's okay. Here's my search box now. We've kind of moved it to the other side of the page, but I can still do my searching. My left navigation is still in place after all these years. Some pages have it, some don't. We'll kind of look at that as we go along. I'm going to go over to the right. We don't have the Site Actions button anymore, and those of you that have been with the product since the beginning, sometimes it's on the right, then sometimes they move it to the left, then they put it back to the right, and then they get rid of it and put a gear there. That's okay. So I have links for my Office 365 settings. I can add a page straight from here, an app, which any of you that may be new to SharePoint, app is the SharePoint way of saying a list or a library. I can get to my site content still. Now this site information is different. SharePoint's changed a little bit here. Even from when SharePoint Online first came out, this is a little different. If I hit site information, I'm just going to see a little snapshot of some of the top level stuff on my site. I see the site name, and you notice that's a text box, so I could change that. I can even change my site icon here if I wanted to. By default, SharePoint just had MD for my site name, but I got my Rosie the Riveter there. My description. This privacy settings has to do with the Office 365 group that is created when I create a modern team site. That's similar to an Active Directory group, but it gives us a kind of a set of assets that we can use as a group, not just SharePoint, but one of the biggest things is a group inbox. It's kind of like a modern distribution list. Where is the mega menu navigation? The mega menu navigation. If you could give me just a little bit more information on that. Oh, the top, the global nav. Okay. Let me close this here. Well, before I close, I'll come right back to that in 1 second. You can still get to view all site settings, but it's just in this site information. So if 1 click is good, 2 clicks is better, right? So I go to site information, then my site settings. And if you're like me and you're a creature of habit, you just know where to click on the page. You don't really read the links anymore. This will get you. Because in the modern team site, for some reason, they decided to switch where some of the stuff is. So my web designer gallery is on the right instead of the left, and look and feel is on the left instead of the right. I choose to believe that was done as a visual cue that we're in a modern site, not just because someone at Microsoft was feeling mischievous. That's how I'm rolling with it. So to answer the question about the top navigation, it is still here, the global navigation. It's a little condensed as to how it was in the past, and I don't really have a lot of stuff going on. I don't have subsites for my modern demo. I did put a link to the communication site we're going to look at in just a minute. So it is still here. And I'm going to click on my site icon to go back to my home page. And I want to explore this site actions gear or the settings gear. I'm a creature of habit. I still call it site actions because it was that for so many, many, many years. I can get straight to my site permissions now from the settings gear or the site actions gear. We get a snapshot first. I can see who my owners are, my members, and my visitors. You can tell this isn't a real site. Poor Stevens, he's either been promoted or demoted, and I haven't cleaned up the other one. I can invite people. I can add them to the members group, share site only. Right? This is a little different, but if we don't like this, notice at the bottom, there are additional groups with permissions on the site. To see them, please visit Advanced Permissions Settings. And here are my traditional SharePoint groups. Those are still here. Those are still viable. They're still in use. We just get that little extra goodness of the Office 365 group to start. And notice on our permissions page, we still have the ribbon. I'm going to click on Browse. You know, in 2010, it took me probably a solid 6 months to learn that if I clicked Browse, it would close the window and I could get back to my navigation. So I'm telling on myself there, but I got a feeling we all have our own little things it took us a minute to catch on to. All right, so now we're back to our page. I love the page. I love the page layout. So you notice we have this little new button right here. From here, I can create a new list, library, page, a news post. That's very handy, or add an app. Let's talk about news. This is my new news that I've got here. So in the olden days, if we wanted to put something like this on a wiki page or a web part page, we were probably going to use content by search web part, and we would have to go to pages, create the page, then go to the web part and set it up, set the sort order, tell it what to find, and have to do a lot of configuring. In modern days, we have a news web part on our page, and to add a new news page, I just click the new, and I have a modern page here. Again, I wonder if we'll still be calling this modern in 5 years. So for the longest time, this section wasn't really editable. I can't talk and type at the same time, so bear with me. And we just kind of had this not particularly attractive gray box up here, but this is editable now. And I could look at my recent images. These are images that I've recently uploaded here. Or I could even go upload an image from a site, my OneDrive, my desktop, wherever that image may be. I like coffee, so I'm going to go with coffee. And you have to click the little check mark. If you find yourself kind of fighting with this off and on, click that little check mark. She said, optimistically, there it goes. There it is. You just got to hold your mouth just right and click open. Now that's not a banner-sized image, right? But my space up here is banner-sized. So you got to be a little careful. Picky might be a better word. But I can choose to focus on a particular part. And sorry, I'm reading a question that came in. It says, I was playing with this before, added a text area and the divider space web parts. I felt I didn't have much control on these, like the width and all. You are 100% correct. There's not quite as much control here. So if I click this, I can add columns at the moment. These are the sections that I have to play with. You know, I could do 1/3, 2/3, 50/50, or I could use the whole page as one column. Not having the content editor web part is a loss. Yes, and you are not the only one who's feeling that loss, but we're going to talk about some options here in just a minute, other than being patient, because I'm not a patient person. But I'm going to put some text here on the page. It's not amazing, but it's getting there, right? We don't have a ton of stuff, not lots yet. I have faith that it's coming. I have lots of faith. So I can put text here. I can find my other plus sign, file viewer, images. I could embed code from YouTube, Sway, Stream. And if this box feels a little small for you, you know, it's just kind of scrunched, I'll confess again, I'm a slow learner. That little arrow here really does do something. It gives you a bigger view. That's not as new as I wish it were because it took me a little while to find it. You can link, add a map. I'm going to play with that on a different page. I've already got a map. If you all remember 2007, you remember that the calendar web part was always a bully and wanted to take up the whole page. At the moment, the Bing map is kind of that way. But, I mean, it's something we've kind of wanted for a while. So I've got stuff I can put here, right? I'm going to collapse this. and I'm going to save and close. You notice it is doing an auto save as we go. Actually, I'm going to publish. If I save and close, it won't publish. So there's another little clue right there. Publishing is already running on this stuff for us, right? So there's my whole picture. If I click on this, I go to the page, I get the little banner. If I decide I wanted to send this by email, I can. Promote, I'll confess, I've not played with promote a whole lot. Help others find your page. Your page was already posted as news. Okay, cool. And people can add comments. This is turned on by default. By default, excuse me, you do have options for that. Okay. Home again, home again. So you see it just starts stacking these for us, and the older things fall off. Now I'm going to edit the whole page, just like we edited our news page. This is the site page, and it's actually called a site page, not to be confused with other site pages we've had before. This is the site page. So I've got some content here. I'm just going to scroll down, let you see what all I've got. Most recent documents. This is sort of, kind of, sort of a content by search web part. I'm going to edit this guy. So I can say I want to look at my site collection, a particular document library, or all sites. This site. Got some options there. I do wish I could scope it to a particular site, not just this one or the whole site collection. But again, I have faith we'll get there. I can pull in documents, pages, news, videos, images, tasks, all of it. You have options here. I chose just to scope it to documents. I have some filter and search options. Manage properties, recently added, recently changed, right? Big difference between those two. And I can choose how I want to see it. Cards, which is what I've got now, these little guys. These are not exciting fake documents in here, so it's not showing exciting stuff. Could go list. So here's a pet peeve, and this is something kind of like not having the content editor web part. We don't have the truly traditional list or library web part yet, where we can go in and configure that view. I can't say, all right, I want to go look at my reports library and only show the title, the date it was last modified, and the responsible party for it. I'm waiting for that functionality to come in. It's not quite here yet, so just be prepared. How many times have we heard the word evergreen when it comes to Office 365 and SharePoint Online? It is an evergreen service, so things are changing constantly. I'm going to put this back on cards. And I can't choose yet, like maybe I don't want it to show that I edited it, but it's there. Maybe I want to show the creator. Don't quite have that yet. And it's saving this on the fly as we go. So if I just X out of this, it will save it. And you notice I've got my title there. It's not super exciting. Okay. Close that. So I added some more documents. Keep scrolling down. Recent activity is very similar. It's just pulling in everything. It's looking at events. It's looking at pages that were created. It's looking at documents that were uploaded. Now, perhaps I want to condense some of this. I could find the little plus sign on the side. It can be a little difficult to find at times. And say I want to go to 2 columns. And I can just drag this stuff down. Good news about moving your web parts around. You know, in 2010 or even on wiki pages, the page doesn't always believe, or the web part doesn't always believe it can go where you're trying to put it, and you have to do some convincing. When you're editing the site pages, you can grab something way up here, and this will just move right along with you. That may not seem like a whole lot if you haven't done a lot of page editing, but that's so nice. All right, put it back where I think it was. All right, and when I'm done, again, I can save it, Or if I decide I don't like anything that I've done, I can discard the changes and it'll go back to the last published version, just like publishing's always worked. I'm going to publish. All right, let's talk about one of my favorite changes that has come. How many times, maybe I should do a raised hand. I wonder if I can see who's got their hands raised. But have you ever had someone ask you, how can I put the stuff on my SharePoint calendar on my Outlook calendar? I've had people want to know too how they can just constantly sync their SharePoint and Outlook calendar. You can kind of do that by doing the sync from SharePoint to Outlook and using your overlays and things like that. But we have had a lot of questions in the past, like, I just want to be able to put this in Outlook. I just want to do it in one place. And I can't tell everyone in my company that they have to go do this if they want it. We're getting closer, guys. We're getting closer. So if you notice on this event web part here, this is actually tied to my calendar, lives in my site. I have an option on my events to add to my calendar. So I just say click, okay. I've got this little guy that opens up on the other screen, says, okay, there's my category business. Where's it going to be? On the web. Save and close. And I can add these events to my Outlook calendar. Nice little piece of functionality. What if I want to add a whole new event? This is slick. It's a modern page again, right? A site page. I can name it, I should have done lunch, but we'll go with happy hour. Tonight, sure. What time does happy hour start? 6? 5:30? Why 5:30? So 5:30 to 6:30. Could be a whole day happy hour. Who am I to judge? Where? I like this. Hodges Bend. Why not? So as I type my address, Bing knows where I am, right? And it starts looking and it goes and it finds the map for us. I love that. I love that. I can't tell you how much I like that. Link, if I've got a URL, display name. This is still SharePoint calendar. Like I mentioned before, pet peeve of mine is the category for your events. They don't always make sense to me. Like working hours kind of feels the same as business to me. And I have never, ever scheduled a meeting or an event where the category was gifts. So you will still want to go to your calendar, edit your column, and put in the categories that make sense for your team, your company, and your people. We'll just say get together. I like that. And I can put my stuff in here. Details. All right. If you want to have someone, maybe put some contact information here at the bottom. Go ahead and add yourself, maybe volunteer somebody else. Volunteer Mark Rackley. All right. Now you notice I don't have a place yet to click to add this to my calendar. That doesn't happen until after I save it. But once I save it, if I want to shoot this out to my group, because I'm not counting on them to be hawking the homepage to see when it's added, send it out. If I got something else I need to create, I can just get right down to it. I'll leave the page. All right, let's see if that's added yet. May take that just, whoop, there it is. It's a lot faster than the content by search web parts, isn't it? Traditionally, I usually tell people maybe give us half an hour for search to go through and find it. You know, usually it's more like 15 to 20 minutes, but half an hour is safer. So yep, very nice. And again, comments is turned on site pages. So if someone had a comment, there's a typo or this or that, you know, at your own risk, there's always one that's going to nitpick everything. So you may not want that turned on. And here's something nice about these pages. So you notice when I collapse it, it condenses everything for me. 100% mobile responsive. Hallelujah. And you take my homepage wherever I need to go. I was going to try to demo mirroring my iPhone on my computer monitor, but that never goes smoothly. But here we go. I can just scroll through. Very intuitive. Collapses it down. Puts in a single column format. Now there, of course, is the mobile SharePoint app that you can download, but honestly, I still just use my Safari browser on my iPhone. I get my menu here, right? It's very nice to collapse that for us. And then I can make that go away. And then we've got our mobile menu here. I actually have a group that I work with. They call this the hamburger. I love that because we call the app launcher the waffle, right? So now we've got waffles and hamburgers. You know, you can't do SharePoint if you don't have a good supply of food. It's hungry work. So while we're talking about pages and page editing, let's talk about branding. That's still a little locked down, though changes are coming. There were some articles published recently with some information on some ways to manage branding your pages with PowerShell. There's not a visual designer out there yet, kind of like we had in 2010 and carried over into 2013, to let you do a lot of custom changes, especially on the communication sites. I can do just a smidge right here. I mean, it's colors, right? Currently, I'm set to purple, which means that's purple. Some of my links, home is purple. My magnifying glass is purple. You can go a little heavier this way. Now, I see a lot of folks that like to have really, really dark backgrounds. Just be careful if you're going to use a lot of other bright colors. You don't want to overstimulate, right? There's a happy medium for what is comforting and what is alarming on a site page. You don't want like a black background with blood red type, unless maybe it's Halloween. Dark yellow. And then we go back to just kind of customizing the links. And this will come through in a different way on our communication site. So let's jump over to the communication sites. And to do that, I'm just going to click on my little link in my teeny tiny top navigation. You notice if you're really fast, you're looking at the screen, these stayed purple for just a split second as I went to a different site in my environment. That tickles me. So here is a communication site. So communication sites are a little different from team sites. Actually, when they first debuted, they were a lot different from team sites, but we've gotten some more functionality added back. You notice off the bat, you see more of your traditional global navigation across the top and not a left navigation, because this is built really with a mobile audience in mind. A communication site truly is intended to broadcast information out, not going to be intended for a lot of heavy collaborative work. And we can see that in kind of the web parts that are positioned here on the page. This first guy at the top of the page is called the hero web part, and it's beautiful. Maybe not as beautiful as it could be with me at the helm, but if a good designer were here, they would find probably prettier pictures. I'm going to go to the site actions here. Looks very similar, right? I have my site information. Here's Rosie again. Still pulling from my other site. That's interesting. Let's refresh this page. Should be my com topic, not my Rosie. Let's just delete, close that tab, see if that helps my browser wake up. There it is. All right, the interwebs got confused. So there's my site icon, name. Again, I can view all site settings by going to site information. Little bit of a change. Users and permissions. Notice I don't have as many web designer galleries as I'm used to having. There's not as much under look and feel. There's just not quite as much as we do here because it's not intended for heavy duty blood, sweat, and tears work. It's intended to put content here and send it out to people. I'm going to go to site contents. So this still works the same. Let me get rid of this guy, right? We still have our contents. We click to see our subsites. If I say new, app, let's see. I got a wiki page library. And then I hit the back button. And I had to activate a feature to get that. The wiki page library is not built in by default. You notice I don't get a picture library. I don't get an image library. I don't have 100% of the items here that I would have inside of a team site. So I know I've said that a lot of times, just impressing on you that there is more of a defined purpose behind the site templates than I think we've seen previously. But our page editing is going to work exactly the same because this is exactly the same page. And I do still get my search box. It's just over here on the right now in this one. So if I edit, so I can choose to edit my hero web part. Just click the little pencil and it'll ask me how many tiles do I want to have? Do I want to have just one big one, 2, 3, 4, and 5? Right now I'm showing 5. And I can edit each of them individually, which is nice. And I can choose if I want them to be colors, pictures, or a mix of both. From a visual point of view, I think a mix of both is good. Just having some solid color can keep us from being overwhelmed with a lot of pictures. And I'll tell you, you can kind of tell by looking real close at my demo picture here, it's a little fuzzy. You're gonna want high definition or high resolution, however that proper terminology goes, but high def images for your sites here because they are going to be displayed both on really large monitors and on smaller phones. So as it gets bigger, we don't want them to look grainy and kind of, I don't know, kind of sketchy. I can choose where the images go. I can, right now I'm not showing the title in my big tile here. But if I wanted to, let's just do this. I could just leave the welcome, show the title. Ooh, got my little purple coming through still. Change the image, change it to color only. And I'm going to publish. Curious to see if this goes blue. Not yet. News, announcements. This is the exact same news web part that was on my modern team site. I've just got it in a smaller column. Put it back in edit mode so you can see. It's in a smaller section of the page, so it just automatically condenses for me. There. Announcements. Let me show you this. This is actually a highlighted content web part. There's not really an announcement. Suggested resolution on images. I've not seen any numbers out there. I will take a look around. If I find anything, I can let you know. I say just what I do. I'm not a designer. Yeah, I try to make SharePoint functional and let other people worry with the pretty. But I just look for really nice, pretty images. Of course, the ones we're allowed to use, you know, free for reuse on Google. Or I ping my designer, our in-house designer, and see if he has images available because he has, you know, the subscriptions to stuff. And just find nice pictures that look really good on my 27-inch monitor. View define the width of your hero web part. In my communication site, it's the full width of the page. Let me look and see what I've done. So this site gets used and abused. Bum, bum, bum. Doesn't look like it's in anything special. And I don't think, let me see if it's just because I'm in edit mode. Discard changes. Do you want to go back to the last modified version? Yes, I do. Oh. Well, it is large and in charge, but I know what you mean. We've got another site where it does take up the whole width. I'll investigate that. All in. So I'm looking at a comment here about loving the modern pages. The only thing holding me back from being all in is the branding and the logo approach. A site with classic and modern pages looks so different. It's tough for new users to grasp. Any idea when pages can be branded consistently? I don't know for sure. I wish I did, because that's a drawback for a lot of folks. In fact, a lot of folks come in and they see this word right here or Office 365 and they're like, can we get rid of that? Ugh. Not at this point in time. Not at this point in time. I'm going to... They did release one column. I'm just going to try to drag this down. They did release some new web parts, or announce that new web parts are coming soon for SharePoint, one of which is a planner web part. See, it is absolutely staying small here. Here's my guess, and I hate to say it's a guess, but it's a guess. This is a very old site page, as old as these site pages can be. And I'll bet it's just a holdover. That's my number one thought. So here is the map, the Bing map web part. It's actually my favorite little brunch place in downtown Tulsa. I love brunch. And I was playing with this earlier, trying to make him smaller, and he just refuses. I can absolutely zoom in and zoom out, but it stays the same. And I tried even saying, okay, you know, I'll play your little game. I didn't try it with 3. Let's find out. Let's see if I can just grab him. It does work. Yay! I bet what I did wrong is I just tried to move him like here, and he said, no, thank you. Look at that. So he's not the bully I originally said he was. I'm sorry, Bing Map, for saying you were a bully. And now we can get much better usable space on our page. Hallelujah. I'll tell you something. The rate at which things change inside of Office 365 and SharePoint Online, it really makes you nervous when you go in to demo something, because I have actually been in a library and suddenly there was a new button, a new place to click, a new icon. And let's actually look at that. So here's a document library in the modern view. Lists have the very same view that's been applied to them recently. And I'll confess, the first time I went in and I saw one, I said, nope, I don't need this in my life. And I went and I clicked down at the bottom on the Return to Classic SharePoint. And I stayed there for quite a while until it became obvious that, okay, time to roll with the punches and get used to the new world. And when I went back, there were changes. So, for example, if I click this guy, if I'm not used to my modern view inside of SharePoint, it just feels clunky. It feels like I took a step backwards, because maybe I want to edit the properties of this item. So to do that, right, I can look at my toolbar. I can rename very quickly and very easily. That's nice, I'll confess. We all know if you want to see what's going on here, you just look at the ellipsis. Can't edit properties there. So, okay. Now we're back to 2007 when you had to go to the item menu and you had to find the exact right thing, right? Properties. that's clunky, that's slow, and I hated it. Until I realized there's this little bitty button on the very far right hand of your screen. If you click on that information panel, you'll get information. It's amazing. Here are all my properties. I can edit them all, or one at a time. I just click out of it. SharePoint doesn't auto save for me. I like that. The big differences between online SharePoint and on-premise SharePoint. You get these changes moment by moment with online SharePoint. That's going to be the big thing. If you're on premises, you have to wait for service packs, upgrades, migrations, all that kind of stuff. I haven't been trying to think. I think about one client, they're just about to move to SharePoint Online because they need to get this kind of functionality. And the big thing with SharePoint Online these days is external sharing. I can actually open up an entire site collection to anyone that I deem necessary. That's scary, but remember, it's our owners, right? Not just anyone can do this. I can create a demo site and open that up for a client. They can log in with a Microsoft like live.com or their Office 365 email address, come into my demo environment, and I'm not having to manage Active Directory forests for external users, right? It's a much cleaner experience. That's a big deal for a lot of people. Can separate site collections share top navigation? Right now, only if you do it manually, but Microsoft has announced that hub sites are coming, and hub sites will give us the ability to link together sites in a cohesive way. Site collections, I should say. Link together site collections in a cohesive way. I'll have more to say about that here in just a minute. So here's my information pane. I can even select multiple items and check this out. Edit bulk properties. Now I still have my quick edit view I could use, but maybe, I don't know, all of these have personal information. I can apply that label. Maybe they all need to have, you notice this is only showing one thing. I found out the other day, if you use your arrow key, you can get that to actually open up. That's just a little thing. I can do bulk editing now with this information pane. I think that feature's about a week old, maybe 2. Let's say, okay, that's fantastic, but it's not enough to convince me that we need SharePoint Online. Well, what about this filter pane? Remember, I haven't seen the new limitations for items in a document library, but an old number is about 30 million. 30 million items in one document library or one list. Holy moly. So we know views are our friends, right? Folders are the F word in SharePoint, and views are our best friends ever. Well, this little filter now gives me the ability to really quick and easy create views, or even just do a one-time filter. You know, I just need to see out of my 30 million items in my library, how many of these are images. It just does that filter right on the fly. Maybe I need to see if I have any PDFs that have been tagged. Oh, nope, just one. So that answers my question. I don't have any that have been tagged red. Nope, nothing to find here. So I can very easily come in, create a filter, and then once I have this filter, save view as PDFs. Make it a public view if you think your team will find that useful. It's a much faster way going through and creating views. You notice it's got this red dot here, right? And if I click this drop down, it says there are files that need attention. Let's see what that's about. So this is missing information. It's also checked out. I'm going to click it. I'm going to go to my information pane, and it tells me again here, this file is missing required information. So some of you that maybe haven't seen this before are going, wait a minute. You can't upload an item into SharePoint if you don't fill out the required information, can you? Because you used to couldn't. Well, you can now. If you notice, it's checked out, and it puts this little alert here, this little warning, we have a problem. So I can just go in, address it, missing info, resolved, deselect, files that need attention, nothing. I'm good to go now. I do have this checked out still, so let me come fix that. Just check it in. Do I want to publish it? Sure I do. Say okay. A lot of stuff is still the same, but there's a lot of differences. And I think I said this when we started. This webinar kind of felt like it was going to be my love letter to SharePoint, because these things really are fantastic. I love seeing that I can come in here if I've got my information pane open. What's happened recently? What are we doing in this site? Who's doing it? If I click more, right? It gives me more information. I need a view, and I need to do it pretty quick. You know, any columns, if I create new columns, they'll show up there. I don't have to go in and add them. And even, I just need to create a new column real quick. What you want? A yes, no column? A choice column? Wait, there's more, right? And then that takes us to our traditional way to create a column. A lot of good functionality here. I can even, we used to always want this back in the day. Oh, move this column to the left. It'd be nice if that stayed open, right? But that's a lot more than we used to get. Move it to the left again. To the left, to the left. All right. Group by color, filter by, right? Lots of good stuff happening here. Or maybe I don't want to hide this column anymore, so I could come in and choose to hide it. Quick edits right here on the open for people to use. Can you drag and drop column order? Oh, like grab it and move? I don't think so. Nope, that still isn't there. But look what I can do with my column width. Hey now, that's spiffy. We've been screaming for that for a long time. Can you remember going into SharePoint Designer and spending half your day in purgatory trying to get your column widths wider? Oh yeah, that was pain and suffering right there. Is that sticky? We're gonna find out. Let's see. You know, I've got that little asterisk there, so I'm gonna say save view as, save. Let's just go look at pages. And then we'll go back. Site pages. Oh, check this out. If you do start creating a modern site page and then abandon it, SharePoint will save it for you and auto name it. Isn't that beautiful? All right, let's go back to documents. Not sticky. Let's chat about that. We would like it to be sticky, right? We would like for the comments column to be able to make it really wide so we can always see what's there and read it. SharePoint user voice. I don't have the URL pulled up, but almost every Office 365 application has a user voice site where you can submit an idea or look at the ideas that other people have said. Hey, Microsoft, it would be so great if. And as the community, we can vote on those. I voted on one the other day about having a calendar page inside of Teams. I love Teams. There's my shameless Teams plug. The more votes an idea gets, the more consideration it's given by Microsoft. And you'll actually see them put a status on it of thinking about it, under consideration, planning for it. And if they do it, they'll actually say it was deployed. So your voice truly does count in the modern world of SharePoint Online. They are looking for feedback. They want to know what they love. You know, we missed the content editor web part. We really want it on our modern pages. So absolutely, go out there and see if anyone has suggested it. And if they have, vote for it. If they haven't, say, you know, hey, Microsoft, I would love to have the content editor web part back on my modern pages. I need that in my life. They're listening. I promise you, I know it sounds like propaganda, because you can name a software company and half the population is going to roll their eyes while the other half applauds and vice versa. They truly are looking for our feedback. Let me think. There was something I said I was going to address in a minute, and I didn't write it down. Hashtag rockstar. Okay. Back to my homepage. Microsoft Teams spins up a modern Teams site. Is there a way to make sure that all Microsoft Teams sites look similar to improve usability? Also, Microsoft Teams creates document library folders. Oh, it does. Does this undercut metadata? I am so glad you asked that question. This is a Teams site created by Teams. This is my Teams channel. So if you've not played around with Teams much, find out if you guys have it and if you can. I'm going to try not to go over, I promise, because it rocks. We are starting to use this internally to manage all of our projects and even just the separate little duties and tasks that we have. Like obviously this is for me to kind of play around with and demo. Here's our company general. Here's information for those of us working on certifications, right? Marketing department, training. There's my webinar way down there, Joy of SharePoint. So any files that I upload here, and even any emails I forward here, because my team channel has an email address, get stored in a tab called Files, sorta. This is really an interface for a document library for a SharePoint site collection that was created when this team was created. You see it says open in SharePoint. If I do that, that brings me right, actually technically it puts me right here. And here's that folder structure, general, growth opportunity, project files. These are my tabs, email attachments. Does that undercut metadata? The Joy of SharePoint opinion is yes. Yes, it does. But it's also a necessary evil right now because yes, folders are the F word of SharePoint and we all know that, but yet Microsoft continues to put them in places like this. It drives me crazy. But we can't mess with this file structure because Teams is depending on it. In fact, if you go out there and start Googling around, you will find warning after warning after warning about don't mess with this. I have not tried to create a different view. I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a different view. I'm not going to do it where you guys are sitting here and make you suffer through it because I know we've only got 4 minutes to go. But I will work on that. If you are interested in getting the results back, I'll document it and I'll either turn it into a blog or just make a comment here in the questions section. And I'll get my marketing guy to dig up your email address and I can email you the document that I come up with. So that's what I'll do. That will be my homework. Find out what happens because our metadata is important. And gosh, folders bury our metadata. Hands down. I had an hour conversation with some folks yesterday about use your views, not folders. And you notice you can upload a folder into SharePoint. Anytime you have an environment where you need folks to be able to do that, I would also go in and edit the default view to be flat and to hide the folder structure. How can I tell what version of SharePoint I have? Dead giveaway, if you're online, you've got the app launcher and this nice little logo bar across the top. I should know the answer to that question and I don't, but I'll get back to you. Yes, interested in your results on folder views. Okay, I would like the answer, please. On premise. So if it's a blank white canvas, or something like this, that's going to be SharePoint 2013. Unless you guys upgraded to SharePoint 2016 and it looks almost exactly the same. And then this guy, this is my first SharePoint crush, is SharePoint 2010. Good old days. All right. This doesn't look pretty at all. I think I've covered about all I can fit into the hour. There's a lot going on with SharePoint Online. And again, it is absolutely evergreen. There's always something new coming in. There's always a new button to click, or they've moved the button somewhere else and you have to have your Easter egg hunt to find it. If you have any questions that I didn't go over here, or if something is still a mystery that you were hoping would be solved, let me know. You can shoot me an email at jturner@pategroup.com. I have recently spun up a Twitter account just for the joy of SharePoint. You can absolutely reach out to me there, direct message, follow me, send me a tweet. That is fine. My company claims 2016, all your demos were completely different than what I see at work. So if you're 2016 on-premise, what I've been showing you is SharePoint Online. And SharePoint Online will be pretty different. The minute something new comes in, it rolls out to SharePoint Online. SharePoint 2016 won't pick it up until your company, I think they released that in service packs. They would have to apply service packs to get the latest functionality. So you'll definitely see a delay in when functionality is available to you if you're in an on-premise environment. Premises. On-prem. Potato, potato. All right, I think I have just about used up every smidge of our time today. I hope that didn't put anybody... Right, Mark, thank you. Modern is not available in 2016. So it's just one of those things that'll have to wait until your company does move on to the next version. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you guys being involved. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate you hanging in here for the entire hour. I hope you have time to find food if you weren't eating while we were doing this. But please reach out to me. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what questions I can answer for you in the future. And just thanks so much for hanging out, guys.